Hi, it's Claire from Pitt News Magazine. Okay, true story. I live on the 38th floor of a Vegas high-rise, but I still close my bedroom curtains every night before getting ready for bed. I know. Who's gonna see me up here, right? But after reading this week's story, I swear I can feel someone out there zooming in while I'm brushing my hair, talking to Riley, and trying to convince myself that coconut oil counts as self-care. And apparently, I might not be totally paranoid. Our Washington correspondent, Grant Thorne, just dropped a bombshell on a company called Flock Safety, a network of more than 80,000 cameras quietly watching, recording, and analyzing 20 billion license plates a month. Yeah, billion. This isn't just about traffic or apartment window telescopes anymore. It's surveillance as a service. The kind of story that makes you want to turn off your phone, throw your Alexa out the window, and move to Wyoming. So tuck in, draw your curtains, and get ready, because Grant's about to prove that Big Brother doesn't need binoculars when he's already got your plate number.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We take the sources you give us, we sift through them, and really try to pull out the actionable intelligence.
Turning that data flood into something useful.
Exactly. And today, we are digging into Flock Safety. You know, the company that's quietly putting up surveillance cameras all across American neighborhoods, often funded by grants.
Yeah, it's like your local neighborhood watch suddenly got plugged into this massive intelligence network. We've looked at the financials, the investigative pieces, court docs, really trying to get a handle on three things.
Okay, what are they?
Right. One, what actually is this tech? Two, how did it spread so incredibly fast using, public money? And three, why is Wall Street so interested? There's all this buzz about a potential IPO in 2026.
And the scale is just huge. That's why we can't ignore it. Sources say Flock's got, over 80,000 cameras now in 49 states?
That's right. And get this, by September 2025, they were scanning something like 20 billion vehicles every single month.
20 billion a month. That number is...
It really should make you pause. Think about the FBI's fingerprint database, decades to build that. Flock's creating this massive movement and location data set, almost comparable in just months. It's surveillance as a service. And the real tension, is this. Does a tool built to maybe catch a few stolen cars turn into something else? A permanent system of control. That data itself becomes incredibly valuable.
Okay, right. Let's unpack the technology then. Because people hear camera, they think ALPR, automatic license plate reader. But Flock says it's more than that. What does it actually look like?
Well, physically, it's designed not to stand out. Just a simple gray box, usually on a pole. Solar-powered, cellular connection, so it's cheap and easy to deploy. No need for digging up streets for wires.
Pretty low-key.
Exactly. But you're right. It's way beyond old-school ALPRs that just grab the plate, time, and location. Flock system, they call it the vehicle fingerprint.
Vehicle fingerprint. Okay, so what details does that capture?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's not just the plate. It uses machine learning to log, everything visible, the make, model, color, obviously.
Standard stuff.
Right. But then also things like bumper stickers, roof racks, any modifications, even damage like dents or scratches, window tint level too.
So let's say I swapped my plates, or maybe one was muddy. The system could still ID my specific car based on that combination of features. Dent on the fender, the rack on top.
Precisely. It's creating a profile of the physical vehicle. That specific combination becomes its unique identifier, its fingerprint. So obscuring the plate doesn't make the car invisible to the network. It builds this persistent digital history of where that specific car has been.
Okay, that's a big step beyond just plate reading. What about the data itself? Where does it go? Who owns it?
Flock says the data is encrypted, stored in the cloud, and typically deleted after 30 days. And crucially, they say the customer owns the data. So the police department, the HOA, whoever pays the subscription.
But hold on. If the local police department owns the data, what stops them from just downloading everything before that 30-day deletion happens? Archiving it locally.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Policy versus practice. Flock's contract might say delete, but actually ensuring thousands of different agencies do delete it consistently, that's incredibly hard to enforce.
And who are these customers exactly? It's not just police, right?
No, not at all. It's pervasive. We're talking over 5,000 law enforcement agencies, sure, but also homeowners associations, school districts watching parking lots, even big retailers using it in their lots for, loss prevention.
Turning store parking lots into surveillance zones. Wow. Okay, so that wide customer base must feed into the growth numbers. Founded 2017, and by 2025, a $7.5 billion valuation. After a big funding round and this IPO talk for 2026, how did they scale that fast?
Yeah, that speed isn't just about having a good product or lots of venture capital, though they have that too. It's really about mastering what you could call the federal to local rollout model, meaning a lot of the growth is fueled by government money, specifically grants. This often lets them bypass the usual, sometimes contentious, local budget debates in city councils.
Ah, the grant pipeline. Yeah, that makes sense. It sidesteps direct public approval sometimes. How do they manage that?
Well, they got smart about it. They partnered with a company called Lexipol. Lexipol works a lot with police departments on policy and training, and part of what they do is help these agencies find and apply for grants.
Okay.
And some reports suggest Lexipol basically writes the grant applications for the agencies, tailoring them perfectly to fit Flock's technology. So for a busy, maybe under-resourced police department, it's suddenly very easy to get funding for these cameras. It's like outsourcing the grant writing.
Streamlining the acquisition. Can you give an example of that money flow?
Sure. We saw one instance, $391,000 from Oregon's Criminal Justice Commission. The stated purpose, retail theft detection using ALPRs. Perfect fit for Flock. And we're also seeing funds allocated under that new Drone Act of 2025 being used. That points towards Flock integrating their cameras with drones. Drone ALPR combos are being tested out.
So grants push the tech down to the local level. But the data itself, does it stay local? Or does it flow upwards?
Oh, it definitely flows upwards. Flock's system plugs directly into federal databases. The big one is the FBI's NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. That allows for real-time alerts across the whole network if a car flagged in, say, California pops up on a camera in Florida.
Right. But there was that other program, too, the really controversial one involving federal agencies getting direct access.
Yes, exactly. That was the pilot program that ran up until August 2025. It gave federal agencies, specifically ICE and CBP, direct warrantless access into these local Flock camera networks.
Warrantless access for immigration enforcement.
Correct. Now, that program was paused after a lot of public outcry and legal challenges. But the key thing is the technical infrastructure for that kind of sharing. It's built. It's there. It could potentially be switched back on depending on future policy or politics.
And this federal integration, the push for it, wasn't just happening in a vacuum, was it? There was lobbying involved.
Absolutely. This wasn't accidental. Flock spent nearly $500,000, $460,000 on lobbying firms like Mercury and BGR Group. These are major DC players.
Oh, influencing policy.
Right. And connect that to the market side. Around mid-2025, when a lot of this funding and policy stuff was heating up, congressional disclosures showed several lawmakers, including some on intelligence committees, were buying stock in companies like Palantir and NVIDIA companies in that whole surveillance tech ecosystem.
Interesting timing.
It suggests, that the political interests, the funding streams, and the tech deployment are all pretty closely linked.
Okay, which inevitably brings us to the downsides, the documented harms. We've talked about the tech, the money, the scale. But this isn't just a theoretical slippery slope anymore, is it? The sources show real misuse.
No, it's not theoretical at all. The court documents are stark. These are real cases, real impacts. In Texas, for example, there was a documented case where a deputy used Flock data, the historical location tracking, to investigate a woman after a self-managed abortion. That data helped build the case that led to murder charges against her and her partner.
Wow. Using vehicle tracking data in an abortion case like that, that's chilling. What about misuse within law enforcement?
That's definitely a pattern, too. We saw a case in Kansas where a police chief apparently ran hundreds of searches, 228, I think, using the Flock system.
Why?
To stalk his ex-girlfriend.
228 searches. Wow, that highlights the access control problem.
It really does. When you have thousands of users across different agencies, robust auditing and access controls become absolutely critical, and it seems they weren't always there. And then there's the accuracy issue itself.
False positives.
Big time. One department in Oak Park, Illinois, reported that something like 40% of the alerts generated by their Flock cameras turned out to be false. 40%.
40%. So innocent people getting pulled over, potentially at gunpoint based on bad data?
Exactly. That's the documented reality in that instance. It shows the human cost when the tech gets it wrong or when the data it relies on is flawed.
So a powerful tool, clearly, but with some serious liabilities, human error, misuse, technical flaws. What's the legal system doing about this? Is there any federal check on this expansion?
Basically, no. There's no comprehensive federal law specifically governing ALPRs or systems like Phlox. It's a complete patchwork. Your privacy rights concerning your car's movements radically change just by crossing a state line.
So states are trying to fill the gap.
They're trying, but it's slow and inconsistent. California passed a law, SB 274, requiring data dilution after 60 days. Virginia set a 150-day cap for some uses. But across the whole country, in 2025, despite this massive camera rollout, only 3 states managed to pass any new laws regulating ALPRs. 3.
The tech moves way faster than the law, clearly. But are there legal challenges using existing precedents?
Yes, and that's where it gets interesting again. The big precedent people are leaning on is that 2018 Supreme Court case, Carpenter v. U.S.
Right, the cell phone location data case.
Exactly. The court ruled that getting long-term historical cell site location data requires a warrant because it reveals so much. It creates this detailed chronicle of a person's physical movements.
And the argument now is that Phlox vehicle fingerprint data does the same thing, or maybe even more effectively.
Precisely. Lawyers are arguing in places like Norfolk and in the Ninth Circuit Court that tracking a car's every move over time using that detailed vehicle fingerprint creates an equally revealing picture of your life. Where you work, shop, who you visit, maybe your doctor's appointments, all tracked. They're arguing it needs the same Fourth Amendment warrant protection as cell phone data under Carpenter.
That's a major legal battleground then. Have communities push back directly too?
Oh, definitely. Some places have just said no. Providence, Utah, for instance, banned Flock entirely over privacy concerns. And then you have places like Menlo Park, California, that got caught apparently sharing their Flock data illegally across state lines, which kind of shows how hard it is to keep this network data contained once it's collected.
Okay, so let's shift gears. We've covered the tech, the money, the problems. Now, the market angle. For you, the listener, how do you think about this as an investment trend? We've got the huge private valuation, $7.5 billion, and that IPO rumor for 2026.
Right, so Flock itself is still private. If you're an accredited investor, you might find shares on secondary markets, places like Hive or Forge Global. But for most people thinking about public markets, the key is to look at the closest comparable company.
And that would be
Palantir, ticker PLTR. They built their empire in government contracts, big data analysis, AI, and their stock performance has been, well, pretty incredible.
Yeah, Palantir's been a rocket ship for investors who got in early. What's the connection?
The playbook is similar. Palantir created this data moat with defense and intelligence contracts. Flock is trying to do the same, but focused on physical movement data at the local level, stitching it all together. Look at Palantir's valuation. It gained, 368% over the past year, trading at insane multiples, like over 100 times forward revenue.
Wow.
That tells you Wall Street puts a massive premium on companies that lock up unique data sets with AI, especially if it involves sticky recurring revenue from government or quasi-government customers, like Flock's subscription model.
Okay, so Flock charges an annual fee per camera subscription model.
Exactly. It's software surveillance as a service. Police departments, HOAs, they pay annually for the camera, the software, the data access, the maintenance. Investors love that predictable recurring revenue.
Who are Flock's public competitors then, if someone wanted exposure to this space now?
Well, the biggest direct rival is probably Vigilant Solutions, but they're owned by Motorola Solutions, ticker MSI. Then you have Axon, the body camera giant, who's definitely interested in expanding their whole evidence management ecosystem. And there's a smaller, more focused ALPR company called Rekor, R-E-K-R.
So the investment thesis, boiled down, is that Flock could become the Palantir of ALPR, riding that wave of government spending and data dominance.
That's the speculative bet, absolutely. The market sees the potential for massive growth and data network effects. The really bullish case, that Flock stock could, say, double shortly after an IPO, especially if we see a political shift after the 2026 elections that maybe reactivates some of that federal data sharing we talked about earlier, like the ICEC BP access. The demand for these AI-powered government data systems is just huge right now.
Right. So wrapping this deep dive up, the conclusion feels pretty stark. This idea of a surveillance state isn't some future dystopia. It's already here. It's live streaming from a lamppost near you. And frankly, it's highly investable. We've really broken down how your daily drive is being turned into this constantly updating machine learning picture.
And every time one of these cameras goes up, funded by another grant, it represents this trade-off, doesn't it? It's a little piece of local control, maybe local oversight, being exchanged for access to this larger, powerful, networked system. We're essentially paying to build the infrastructure that tracks us.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. We know the law, especially constitutional law around privacy, moves incredibly slowly. But Flock, fueled by billions in capital and huge valuations, moves incredibly fast. So what happens if the main check on this surveillance expansion isn't really a legal or ethical debate anymore, but becomes more about market forces, about shareholder expectations? What happens to oversight when the response to a serious abuse case is just a shrug from investors worried about the stock price dipping? It's something to think about. What will you do with this knowledge?
Okay, I don't know about you, but after hearing that, I'm thinking about walking everywhere. Or maybe getting a horse. Something without a license plate. Huge thanks to Grant Thorne for doing what he does best. Following the money, even when it leads somewhere uncomfortable. And if you want more stories like this, the kind that make you think, double-check your privacy settings, and maybe question your HOA, subscribe to Pitt News Magazine at pittnews.com. Oh, and one more thing. Pitt News on Air is now officially a weekly podcast. Lan Turner gave me the go-ahead, so every Wednesday I'll be bringing you a new story pulled from the pages of Pitt News Magazine. The ones that make you laugh, learn, or occasionally delete your apps. So hit subscribe and join us next week, where we'll prove that the market isn't the only thing keeping tabs on you.